Well, hey, everybody, welcome to the Tell Me More podcast. This is our first episode in 2026. If you're just joining us, the podcast is what it sounds like. Tell Me More. It's about basically kind of what we talk about on the weekend, only we tell you a little bit more. We go a little bit deeper. And so welcome. If you're new to this, maybe you're new to Church on the Move or someone shared this with you. This is a fun journey that we're going on together. So I learned something interesting recently. I did not know that there's actually another podcast that gets recorded in this room. I had no idea. And my wife is on it. And so I was listening actually to one of these episodes, and one of their episodes recently that had both of the guests that I've got on today. So I'm joined by Jamie and Val. And I wanted to have both of you on for kind of a specific reason. We're talking about breakthrough, and I started talking about this sort of toward the end of last year, this sermon I did on joy. There's been kind of a conflict in me around how to talk to people about breaking through certain behavioral cycles, problems, you could call them neuroses, I suppose, that some of them are like diagnosable.
Sure.
And then some of them are just, we're being lazy or fearful or whatever the case may be. We just kind of have like pet anger or lust or whatever it is. And I find myself kind of caught between. So Jamie's a friend. Also, this is like depression has been a real battle for you, and you've been open about it. And so I want to kind of talk a little bit about that. And then Val, tell us a little bit about kind of like credentials, background, study, all that stuff.
I'm a mental health counselor. I'm a licensed professional counselor here in Oklahoma. I've been working with people for about 13 years,
Wow.
Families, children, adults, couples. So I've kind of run the gamut on it. Something I love about the field is that you can kind of do all kinds of things. But relationships are really probably the thing that I hone in on most because, and I think from a Christian perspective, it's that God made us for a relationship with Him first. He made us for a relationship with each other. And so I think this is a place where people really battle. And people come to me for specifically that kind of help. So, yeah.
Well, I really enjoyed, first of all, let me just say I really enjoyed the podcast.
Oh, I like to hear that. I like to hear that.
So I kind of want to talk about this, and we can touch on points. I know that most of the times I record this, we kind of go in depth in the sermon, and we may talk about what I talked about this weekend. But I do want to at least spend a little bit of time addressing this tension. So after the email after the sermon that I got this email. Basically, what I was preaching, and is based on this book I have over here called Spiritual Depression by Martin Lloyd-Jones, which I really love. He's talking about kind of the Psalm 42, why so downcast, O my soul, put your hope in God. And I was talking about speaking to yourself and taking hold of the thoughts that go through your mind. And I was trying to talk about, and really I was aiming this at the kind of the vast majority of us that are not clinically depressed or clinically anxious or whatever you might, Right. I'm fully aware that there are diagnosable conditions that feel for many folks like they're outside of their control. I don't want this, but I have this. And I'm talking to folks about knock this off. Like you really have to. And it's one of the things he says I really agree with, which is he says something like the main art in spiritual living is taking yourself kind of by the hand and speaking to yourself and guiding yourself. Like it's self control, if you will. So, like, we're not gonna think about that. I'm not gonna let that thought pattern, go through my mind again or whatever. And I think this is like I've had to learn to do that many times in life, where I've been in stressful, difficult situations. Finding myself arguing in my head with someone I'm at odds with. What I say, and just obsessing over it, and coming to the point where it dawns on me, this is not good. Stop. And your mind goes right back to it. Stop. Your mind goes right back to it. But after enough times of redirecting your mind, you can move past that. I think that's the majority of people. But then there are some edge cases. So I got this email from someone who did not like my sermon at all that weekend. And this isn't a podcast just aimed at them, but it occurred to me there's people that maybe feel like this, that are like, look, you're telling me to stop, quote scripture, and I've done all of that, and I've prayed, and it's not getting any better, and you're just making me feel worse, and I don't know that I can come back here for a while because blah, blah, blah. And I get it. So I'm trying to think about how might we, as we kind of begin this, talking about breaking through habitual thought patterns and coping mechanisms and all the stuff. I told a story this weekend of a loved one in my life who I think is probably diagnosably bipolar. And he had an abusive upbringing. And, so one day can be wonderful and the next day is depressed and literally wandering the city. You don't know where he's at. You find him walking down the side of the road and just moping around. Nobody loves me. I can't, and I'm just like, shut up. What are you talking about? And so, it's maddening to try to live with. And it's like, I was asking him, do you want to get counseling? We could help you. And he's like, I can't. In tears. It's too painful. And I just think, so you would rather live with this pain than like break through this thing. So we're talking about all this, and there's a spectrum, I guess is what I'm saying here, of a majority of us that I think are in a place where we have some control, but then there's some stuff that's beyond that. And I want to just maybe get your personal experience with this. Mental, I think, issues or some of these things that you kind of want to just be like in the old movies where you just take somebody by the shoulders and then slap them across the face and say, snap out of it. Because it feels like selfishness. This is within your control, but it's not. But it feels that way. So I don't know who wants to start or whatever, but maybe.
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
A couple of things I was thinking just while you were talking, Whit, is even when you said, like, my mind will go one place and I'll be like, stop. My mind will go, stop. And I keep going back and forth, stop. It took me until I was around 40 years old to know that my mind was going.
Really?
I didn't know to tell it to stop. I didn't know it was always thinking. It wasn't until I was on medication and my mind slowed down that I was like, oh, this is how people live.
Wait a minute. So talk about how in the world is that possible? So what was it? How did that occur to you?
Welcome to my inner life. I just didn't sure, there were times where I would understand, like I'm arguing with my husband when he's not there in my mind, and then I'm going to say this and he's going to say this and I'm going to say this. That I knew I was doing.
Okay.
But just every day coming and going, things that were going through my mind, I didn't realize. And I don't even know how to explain that if you've not lived that. But I didn't know my mind is just always going. It's always whirring. It's like dial-up days, da-da-da-da-da. My mind is always da-da-da-da-da.
What did you say? What changed it and it started to slow down? Medication?
Yeah.
So you describe it like it was slowing down?
Yeah. I remember, and granted, and I'd love to talk more about this at some point on the podcast, but I went through a lot of things because I've taken a holistic approach to my health and mental health. It's not just going to a doctor. In fact, the first time I was diagnosed with depression, I pushed back hard because I was like, you can't sit in a chair and tell me you know what's going on in my brain. I don't agree with you. So I went the approach where I've done blood work, and I've done everything known to man to fix this, to heal this. But I do remember on the journey doing all these things, one day driving down the road, and I was headed to the gym, and I got about halfway there and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not thinking anything right now. I've never felt this. And so that was
that was post-medication?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Post-counseling, medication, changing my eating, diet, exercise.
Yeah, I've been there for a lot of that.
things.
We've our families are close, so I know a lot of the things that you've done.
So there are times when you really have a diagnosable clinical depression and anxiety where I've heard sermons and been a little frustrated with a pastor being like, you have no idea what you're talking about. But on the flip side, I would say, I thought about this after that sermon in December, Whit. I have a friend who's battling and beating cancer right now. And she's going through chemotherapy, and she cannot really leave her house too much right now because her immune system's down. And if you preached a message about do not forsake the assembling together with other believers, she would sit at home and say yes and amen.
Yeah.
But somebody with a mental health condition would be like, nope, you can't say that. And I don't agree. You preach the word
So
with
good.
boldness, period.
I totally agree with
Even
this.
if you're not yet living the ideal.
Absolutely.
And so I talk about the tension that I know you felt. I feel it too, because I have sat in the church service being like, the pastor doesn't get it.
yeah.
But how do you diminish the word of God? Like, I'm moving towards him.
Yeah.
That's an interesting principle and perhaps should be unpacked just a little bit, this idea of holding on to the ideal, because we're living in a world, it's interesting. I think our culture has shifted so far to the make sure you include everybody.
Right, yeah.
Not everybody is where you are.
Right.
And so if I'm not seen, if my situation is not acknowledged, if there's not then somehow it's rude or insensitive. And I always just think this is just me. Maybe this is how I grew up. I'm not the only one on this planet. Like I feel like I don't know personally, and I would love to see us have the maturity to be able to recognize the uniqueness of our case, and then also recognize the kind of spectrum and the broad, because Proverbs function like that. If you don't, the Proverbs are not 100% true.
Right.
They're not promises. So when you train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it, is not a promise. It is a true, most of the time statement. That's what wisdom is. There are always edge cases where it's like, well, it didn't work out that way here. Yeah, it didn't. That doesn't make this proverb untrue.
Right.
It just means that there are occasionally different circumstances, and I feel like we, as a culture, really struggle to kind of accept that maybe we're not in the median or the norm, and that's okay if I'm not being acknowledged or seen or whatever.
When we're not in the median or the norm, I feel like that gives us such an opportunity to wrestle with the Lord. Because I left that message in December, and Brian said, "How do you feel?"
Yeah.
And I said, "I feel like it was harsh. I didn't feel like it was wrong.
Yeah.
I feel like it was harsh." But do I take that to the Lord and say, your word says this and I'm not experiencing it, so what do I do? Because that's how I become a better Christ follower.
Right.
I don't know in my life if I'll ever be off of medication.
Sure.
I don't know. But it doesn't mean God doesn't heal me and meet me in the wrestling. Because I continually say, is this still right for me in this season, Lord?
Yeah.
Am I still where I need to be? And if I didn't have to, I am just arrogant enough. If I didn't have to pause nearly daily and say, am I still where I need to be? I'd be hard to, I'm hard to live with as it is. So, but
I'm curious your perspective on all this.
Me
Val.
too. Me too.
Well, as I'm listening to you, one of the thoughts that I had was, when those feelings come up, and I've had the same tensions, even when I've listened to you, Pastor Whit, I've and with others, where I'm like, I'm wrestling with, can I hold both of these things true at the same time? That dialectical kind of mindset, right? And I think yes, I can. There's a place for that. However, is there another thing happening here, kind of under the surface, that I'm not recognizing? Is there something about this that when that defense comes up, that defense is a protective measure that we're taking, and so am I? Is there something about what's going on with me that I want to protect? Is there something that I want to hold,
I totally
close
think that's right.
And to keep, like the story that you shared about the lizard, oh, well, not today, maybe another time. How free do you really want to be?
Yeah.
I think depends on how honest you want to be about how this is actually serving you. Is there something about what you're touching on whenever you say, this, you should live with joy, or there shouldn't be a depressed Christian? Is there some aspect of that whenever you kind of recoil at that statement? That's because I want to keep this to myself. This is some sort of something I've taken on as an identity. I think we should question. I'm not saying it's always the case, but I think sometimes it can be, and we do need to submit that, you know, to the Lord.
I think you said something interesting there. Taking it on as an identity.
Yeah.
Taking on, and this weekend we talked about, we worked through the story of John 5, which is Jesus healing a man at a pool who's been lame for 38 years, laying by this pool for who knows how long. It doesn't say, but it's a long time. And you have to wonder, I think, at that point in time, after 38 years of this, how much of that, let's call it handicap mindset, if you will, has become part of his self-understanding and his identity, to the point that when the Lord asks him, I was journaling about this, do you want to be well? I read sort of almost a defensiveness in his voice. Well, nobody's there to help me get in the pool. Is almost as if like the Lord's question just kind of pierces all the way down to kind of the deepest level of like the want to. Do you actually want to be well? And he just kind of, he immediately responds by putting up a defense. That's what I hear in his statement.
I almost wonder, like, there's something about it whenever I was, when I was contemplating it too, that it was almost like, this is familiar to me. There's something about it that's like a rehearsed kind of response. Like, I wonder how many times he told this story about why I'm not healed after I've been here for 38 years, potentially waiting for this pool to be stirred. Because, you know, I wonder if that's not the first time he's been questioned about that, about the why have you been healed? You've been here for so long. And so I hear this from people when I work with them in counseling too. It's like, it's when the response is like, you know, it's so ready. You know, I'm so ready with a response. Like, as soon as you ask me what's going on here, I'm going to tell you, well, this is the way I am. And what they're saying there is, well, you know, I'm the guy that always puts people in their place, for instance, you know, or I'm the person who, I'm just very like
black and white.
And so this is who I am. And really, what they're telling me is, don't touch this.
Isn't that interesting? So that I didn't get into that in every sermon, but I thought that is, I find this a lot with counseling. I don't do a ton of counseling. Occasionally, a situation makes its way to me. Someone will specifically ask, and they've been through kind of other pastors, and they're like, we want to talk to Pastor Whit. Okay. What I find in those situations is that they don't really want, especially when they haven't gotten the answer that they've wanted from our other staff pastors, they come to me hoping that I'm going to say something different. And I think what they're hoping is that I'm going to give them basically I'm going to agree with them. That I'm going to hear what they've been through, and I'm going to go, oh my gosh, you poor thing, that's awful. And usually there's a lot more to it than that. And when I don't agree with them, you can kind of see the surprise on their face, and generally it leads to them leaving the church over the thing. And I think, what did you want? Like, did you really want counsel, or did you just want someone to agree with you? And I think most people just want someone to agree with them. They just want somebody to say this. And I think what you're describing is, I think we don't like, I talked about this weekend, I think we don't like the negative outcome of the outcomes of our brokenness, but we also, so we want those healed. I don't want this continuing string of broken relationships or whatever. I don't like the outcomes, but this part of me is off limits. So let's not talk about that. Let's just figure out how to manage this. And it's like someone coming in with a broken leg saying, don't set the bone, just give me some painkillers. And it doesn't work. Is that what you're encountering?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's so interesting whenever you're hearing what people think that they're coming for, and as you begin to talk with them, and then also there's sometimes people don't know why they're there. They just know, I want this to change, and I don't have an awareness. Like, I don't know that my thoughts are racing all the time. You know, could be an example of it. But there's like they do need someone there sometimes to hear them,
Sure.
you know, and maybe it's not always about agreeing with them.
Sure.
Maybe they need
Right.
some space and they need some time and someone to just be like, I hear you, you know, I hear you with this. But, you know, how willing they are to really unpack what's underneath the surface, I think has everything to do with how ready they are to change. If they're not ready to change, it doesn't matter. You know, I train
agree.
counselors too, and young, you know, new counselors. They'll come in. Well, they just need to do this, this, and this, and this, and I'm like, yeah, I know, I hear you.
If life was that easy.
Yeah, I hear you. They need to know that.
Yeah.
They have to come to the place of readiness for that.
So
if
true.
they don't come to that place themselves, then what changes? And I thought what was striking about the story that I've never considered is as you were preaching this weekend was that sometimes we think if the Lord would just take care of this relationship, if God would just heal me, if He would just take away this mental health problem,
Right,
if He
right,
would,
right.
if I didn't have this to deal with, all my problems would be solved. And so it's the Lord who's not doing the work in me.
Oh man.
And so, but in that case, the Lord did do the work. He did do a miraculous moment of healing for this man. And man immediately goes back to what he was doing.
Yeah.
He has not changed. And that, I think, can be a picture for us as Christians to to have understanding about we do need to partner with the Lord.
Absolutely.
He can touch us and He will. It's not like He won't do it. But He also is saying, comes back and says, don't, you're healed. Don't go sin anymore. You know, I'm going to give you the way. I'm telling you there's a connection here.
Yeah.
But He's not willing to see it. He's not really ready to change.
I think the reality is your circumstances can change, and I think a lot of us live with the mistaken belief that if these circumstances change, then I would be different.
Everything would be different.
But the work the
Proved
Lord wants to do
absolutely.
is a work in you.
Yes.
And so what you said about, I completely agree. It's so fascinating, the do you want to be healed? I read a few commentators on John 5 that said there's no need to psychologize all of this. And I'm like, I actually think there is. I think there is a deep psychology happening here. He's asking him a question that I think we have to wrestle with. Do you actually want this? And you're right. You can't make someone change if they don't want to. The story that I referenced from C.S. Lewis, I think in most of the services where it's kind of this parable of people from hell going to heaven, and one man has a lizard on his shoulder. But really, the whole of the book, and it's a short little book. I highly recommend it just to see kind of human nature. Honestly, get a kind of peer into your own heart, because each of these people who come from hell are showing up with their own pet sins, if you will, or issues, and it's not that heaven isn't open to them. It's that's fascinating. And if you think about that for a second, it's not that heaven isn't open to you. It's that you can't conceive of the possibility of even living in that space. Well, that's impossible because it's always because they're holding on to something that they just cannot let go of. In the case of this man that I described, or that C.S. Lewis describes here, he's got a lizard on his shoulder, a red lizard, which kind of is representative of his of lust, and it's been with him for a long, long time, and it whispers in his ear, and he hates the thing. Like it's a pretty adversarial relationship in so many ways. It's like this. It's kind of like Gollum with the ring. It's a love-hate thing. It's destroying him, and yet he can't escape it. It's like that. But I think it's interesting the way that Lewis framed it is the angel continually asks the man this one question: may I kill it? And he can't do it until the man gives him his permission. And it's interesting. Here's this much more powerful being who could just take the thing and kill it, but it would result in nothing. Nothing would really change if he did that. So he has to wait for the man to be willing to say, yeah, go ahead, kill it. And it's this whole kind of escalating tension as you read through this, that it just gets more and more tense, and the man becomes more and more, I don't know what the right phrase is. I don't know if I call it manic or what, but he's more like emotionally heightened, terrified, nervous, all of it.
Yeah.
Finally, he just kind of screams out, "Do it." And he does. And he's, it's a very painful thing, but he is transformed through it. Both he and his sin are transformed through the thing, and he enters into life, if you will. Yeah. But I think a lot of us, we want the Lord to deal with that. Yeah. And what he really wants to deal with is us, and we're not interested in that, because I think most of us are. It's what I talked a little bit about this weekend, learned helplessness. Well, this isn't, I'm just a victim here. I'm just a passenger here. And there's a real lack of agency.
Yeah. This is slightly off topic what you're talking about right now, but I don't want to forget when you were both talking. So maybe you're here, Val, to counsel me. I don't know. But I thought it was interesting that you said that the man had a ready response for maybe why he hadn't been healed, or it appeared to you.
I wondered about that, yeah.
It appeared to you. And you do a lot of counseling and things, so I want to lean into what you said and think what's fascinating is I think one of my weaknesses or struggles or something I hate is to be misunderstood. And that's probably a childhood wound or whatever. I don't want to psychoanalyze myself too much. You can, but I won't. I've proven to not be good at that for myself. But I don't like to be misunderstood. I don't care if you don't agree with me, as long as you hear me and understand me. And so
I feel that way a lot of the time.
Even as you guys were talking about this man, like this is why I think Scripture is so good studied with other people, because I'm hearing maybe a healthier version of him saying, but nobody will take me to the water. And I immediately, my mind went to, I kind of hope Brian doesn't listen to this episode. My mind immediately went to, Brian will often tell me, like, just listen to what I'm saying, because I read between the lines. And it serves me well in a lot of areas of life. I often know what you're thinking or your intentions, but Brian's not one of those people. And I would be the person that would be tempted, or maybe even would say to the Lord, but nobody will take me. Like, I need you to know I really did want to be healed, but just like, I've been through this before and nobody comes to help me.
Let me give you the
just
caveat.
let me just, because Brian will say like, do you want to do this? Do you want to go to this restaurant? And I'm like, well, I ate Mexican food yesterday. And he's like, who cares? Like, are you listening to what I'm saying? And I think that I stay stuck when I lean towards like, but I need to be understood before I can even go there with you, even with the Lord, even with a counselor, but first let me just tell you, let me just first explain myself.
Right.
And I, for the first time, heard you guys talking about that man, and I've always felt bad for him. I've not thought about it.
Really? I hate the guy.
I know. And you said this weekend, what did you call him?
Pathetic.
The pathetic man. And I'm just like,
I have
that's
no
so...
sympathy for that man whatsoever. None.
Yeah.
But
I'm not a sympathetic person.
But I just think like, the poor guy
I
doesn't
just
have
think he's a
anybody to-
loser.
But just a different perspective
I
would be.
think that, I don't know, maybe we could go down this rabbit trail for just a second. So that's one of the things, empathy. Well, you got to have empathy.
Yeah.
I'm just like, well, empathy is not a fruit of the Spirit.
Sure.
The word is not even, doesn't even exist when the Scripture, it's a relatively new word.
Yeah.
And it's a real favorite word we have right now. And I think the idea is that if you could, the kind of the basics of empathy, I think, are that, well, if you knew how I felt and what I've been through, well, you would be a lot more understanding, and there would be kind of this grace and this aw shucks.
Sure.
I see none of that with the Lord here.
Yeah.
It's not to say he doesn't have compassion. Compassion's a whole other thing.
Right.
I feel for you. I hate that you're in this.
Right.
But but like to sit and to empathize and be like, let's just think about what life is like from your perspective.
Sure.
The Lord does none of that. There's no putting his arm around him. There's no crying with him. There's no like, gosh, man, I hurt for you. It's just immediate, direct, get up, take up your mat, and walk.
And the Lord saw fit to send you an empathetic wife.
Oh, Lord, yes. Oh yeah. But there's a high-centeredness in all
Sure.
of that too. Like
Sure.
we can, we're a good balance for each other.
Absolutely.
What are you thinking,
Yeah.
Val? Are you-
Well, I do hear, though, I hear gentleness. I hear gentleness.
Sure.
I hear kindness, because he is approaching him and he's saying, do you want this?
Yeah.
I feel like that is a gentle approach. It's
Yeah.
to say, I'm not going to force this upon you.
Yeah.
You have the choice here. But yeah, kindness and empathy are two completely
Correct.
different things.
Correct.
Because kindness
That's good.
is direct.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is the kind thing to do.
Yeah.
To not just be nice to
Yeah.
someone,
That's good.
to actually be honest with them.
Yes.
Because then you have an opportunity to change something. Then you have an opportunity to help them confront something that is
Yeah.
harming them or hurting them.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I do want to speak a little bit to what you're saying.
Oh no! Okay, good.
No, not to
Bring it on.
psychoanalyze you, but what it
Please.
made me think of.
It's been
Let's have
waiting
some
for
fun.
this for a long time.
No, what it made me think of though is that piece about what you were talking about this weekend about how we how these patterns develop early
Sure.
on
Yeah.
in
Sure.
life.
Yeah, I want to talk about that too.
Yeah, these patterns develop early on in life, and you identify them as like a defense mechanism, and I think that can be true.
Okay.
I also think that there is a need for people, if they're going to actually change it, to recognize how this has actually served them. And you talked about that just for a moment.
What service were you
But
at?
to dig in, I wasn't in any of them.
You just
I was
listened to
on
it.
worship.
Yeah, all good. Yeah.
But I listened to it.
Okay.
So I'm not sure which iteration.
Probably
it
would have
was.
been 9:45.
9:45.
Okay,
I listened. It's the one that I
9:45.
That was the best
Um,
one.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
so I think of the litter.
It's my favorite one anyway.
But you said maybe it helped you.
Yeah.
But yeah, when those like to really lean into that, to think about how did this actually help me? How did it help me stay safe? How did it help
Sure.
me stay connected to important people? How did it help me with staying I don't know, grounded at some point? It actually served me more than just being defensive at some point in my life, because there is a part of us,
Wow.
I think, that still will hold on to believing that I need that, that helped me. And so I need to hold on to that, because that's the thing that's going to get me through. And when we do that, it's like there's a lack of, I think we're trading off our own, dependence on ourselves for what we could be
Wow.
offering for dependency on the Lord.
Let me ask about this, because I think so. What we're talking about here, if I'm understanding you correctly, are coping mechanisms, or is it broader than that?
I think it's a little deeper than
Okay,
that. I think
okay.
it's these patterns that are developed. So Jamie,
Oh,
if you,
goodness. Yes, Val.
if you were to say, okay, I would wonder, at what points in your life was you having the answer, or you thinking ahead, or planning ahead for, what was going to come next? How's that shown up in your life as needing to serve you early in life, to stay connected, to stay safe, to stay secure, and you don't
yeah.
have to answer
Yeah,
that
I'm like,
question,
good,
but
'cause I'd have to really think.
this would be the question, because at some point you decided, this is the way that I can
Yeah.
Yeah.
be
So
in
what's
control.
interesting about
Get what I
that?
need,
So
get
what
what I
would be
want.
interesting
My needs
about that
met,
is
yeah.
that can be good.
Right,
Yeah.
it was for a
And
season.
and maybe even there are still moments where
Sure.
that would be wise.
Right.
Planning ahead,
Yeah.
doing the research, having all the answers, and following a plan.
Right.
But that also will get you into trouble.
Yeah.
And especially in following the Lord, because there's going to be some things He's going to lead you into that you won't be able to plan
Right.
for, that you're going to have to just straight up trust Him.
Sure.
Yeah.
And if you don't have maybe a deeper recognition of what those things are, and a willingness or an ability to be able to set them aside, because I think we all probably have, my hunch is that we all have personality tendencies,
Yeah.
things we
Yeah.
go to.
Right.
And so one of mine is, so I did music and arts around here for a long time, and I loved it. I was good at it. It was what I did way before I was pastor. And there's a part of me, there's a really exacting, demanding, I want it just like this part of me that is
Right.
tied to some pretty, I think, to some identity stuff for me of how I am perceived. And so when we do special services, most weekends this is not a thing.
Yeah.
But occasionally there'll be a special service that I have nothing to do with anymore that would have been for years a huge part of what I did every year.
Yeah.
And it was how I got a lot of, even behind the scenes, not big public praise, but from my family, from everybody around. Oh, that was awesome. And when I see it and I'm like, what we're doing today, and I'm like, that's not good. I would change this, don't that. I feel all of this emotion.
Yeah.
And I recognize that my emotions, because of my kind of wiring, are they're not how would I describe this? They're not the most developed part of my like in control personality. And what I mean by that is, like, when my emotions come, they come pretty raw and immature, and I'm aware of this. So I'm growing in awareness of this, and I'm growing in the idea that when I'm feeling all of those things, that I just have to be aware that these feelings are here, but they're pretty immature because they're not what I can easily access most of the time. They kind of live in the background, and then when they show up, they're just somewhere I've heard it said in the Myers-Briggs language, like, these are my 10-year-old self. And it feels very much like that. And so having an awareness of that allows me, when I'm in that moment, to just go, I'm feeling a lot. And even with our team, I have to be very careful who I'm around, because they can, like, I need people to be able to handle it. I'm going to just say some things, and I want to just vent for a second. I need to get some of this out, but also I don't want you to be hurt by this. I'm not attacking people. I don't like this. I don't like this. That was terrible. And then this just happened at Christmas.
Yeah.
And then we come to the end of the Christmas service, and I'm like, that was phenomenal. You guys did a great job. But when I first saw it, I was stirred. All of this is stirred up.
Yeah.
And anyway, I think that's, there's I think there's a part of that I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm just maybe I'm just
Let's
sharing
analyze
here.
Whit.
Yeah, do it.
Val, let's go. Tell him what he needs.
Oh my goodness.
No pressure, but
it just sounds like that it sounds like the growing in awareness is such a huge key piece, right? To understand that I can the emotional maturity piece of it is to understand that these feelings come, or these emotions come, and emotions or feelings are not exactly the same thing. But, I have this reactivity in me.
Yeah,
that's sort of
that's a great word.
Up, it's sort of building up. And when I recognize it, I can take a pause. I can give myself a chance to either react in this moment, or I can ride the wave. Because, and to remember that emotions, they act like a wave. They're always going to be there. Think of them like the ocean. There are always waves coming in the ocean. Emotions are always present. They're always behind the scenes, like you said. They're always there's an undercurrent going, and then you're going to have some waves that are bigger than others. And so learning to ride that wave out and allow it to peak and allow it to come back down, and to trust that that's going to happen.
Yes.
And to trust that the Lord's with me in the peaks.
Yeah.
And whenever things get back to normal and
That's
I feel
interesting.
okay. But when I can kind of pause and be like, that's what this is. This is an emotional reactivity in me, because this is touching on something. Like, if it was a time whenever you in your life got a lot of praise, and you got recognition, and maybe that was something that you needed. And so it was like, okay, well, I'm going to do that because that feels good, because that's helpful to me. That's helpful to me in my identity and me learning who I am. And maybe you needed that at some point, not to psychoanalyze you, but, but I think that we all have these needs. We all have these things that we learn. Okay, that's getting me something that I need. So I really need this to be everything.
It's how you feel validated. It's how you feel
So
worthy.
it's super important.
Yeah.
So no wonder you have like a reactivity about it, because it was really important to you. It was really important to who you were becoming and what the kind of validation that you were
When I'm with the
needing.
team, it's about 3 or 4 people, but when I'm with those guys, I just say, listen, I'm pretty open about, I am feeling all of this, and I'm not sure I really even trust myself.
Yeah.
but this is what I'm feeling right now. I'm going to share it with you.
Yeah.
And then so the next day, because it was the night before the first services, and some of what I was feeling was right. They made some changes, came back the next day, and saw the thing, and I was like, "This is great. This is working." And I'm realizing, as I knew I did, and I tell them, I'm overreacting right now. I know I am overreacting right now, but this is just what I'm feeling right now.
Yeah.
Then I come back the next day, and I just circled back around to each of them and just said, "This is awesome. I was wrong about a lot of things I said. This is great." And I'm trying to figure out how to handle those peak moments better. They're few in my life. They usually are triggered, interestingly, by like embarrassment. Will make you want to see the absolute worst version of me embarrass
Same.
me.
Embarrassment is bad. Embarrassment is very bad for me as well.
Sure.
Yeah. It's the one. Somebody, if I just feel like somebody's laughing at me and I didn't tell the joke, that's going to be a real problem. You know?
Yes.
And I hate that about myself, but it's something that it's like, that's real. That's
trying to figure out how to process that and just being aware of it, knowing that it's there and that it's a thing and that it's ugly.
Yeah.
And that you're, like, Lord, help me deal with this. And in my case, a lot of times in that kind of peak emotional state, unfortunately for me, it also requires me to be leading or to be on a stage, which is for my introverted personality, when I'm feeling all of that, the last thing I want is put a spotlight on me in a microphone because I don't know how to all I know how to express is like anger at that time, and so it's really tough. So we're kind of talking. I don't know what you'd call them. I said coping mechanisms, but it's more than that. Maybe I might ask this question. Some of these things are, we were talking about anxiety, worry. Some of these, though, do dip deeper into kind of compulsive behaviors that become more than just a, like what I might say, like what my daughter might feel in terms of anxiety because she's looking at too much social media. And so we can work through that. Maybe that is hey, we need to reduce this. But some folks, I've met some folks that's like even just walking into the building is like crippling.
Right.
And that for me, I just don't quite frankly understand. So I want to talk maybe about the tension between what God can do and also the physical, maybe physiological, maybe biological, I don't know, reality that some people are dealing with some things that maybe they look healthy on the outside, but inwardly, there are extenuating circumstances that really are that have a different effect on them. It's what you've talked about with depression, which on the outside you can just want to be like, snap out of it, come on, but there really is something there. Let's talk about that in terms of how does that come into tension with faith? And believing that God could, like, how can God heal and meet me there? And I believe that, but yet I'm still on medication and not remaining in this kind of resigned, hopeless, this is just how I just deal with this and everybody around me has to deal with it. And it's tough for you. I'm kind of becoming like this man, a victim. Which I was describing the kind of path of the componentry of learned helplessness, that passivity. I am just a passenger here. I think that's the worst place that you could be. So maybe let's start going down into that. Like, what about that tension, and how might we help people that are in that spot?
Are you going first?
I think I'm curious what you're going to say because you live with a certain level of this and
I feel like, I mean, such a taboo conversation. I feel as someone who I think in this current season, until I walk further along my healing path, am on medication, I feel almost infuriated by how many people toss around the words anxiety and depression.
Oh, wow.
It's so frustrating to me. It's frustrating to me that
Like
someone...
you think you don't really know what you're talking about?
It's frustrating to me that someone can go to the doctor. I was with a family member last week at a routine family medicine checkup. And I was just there as a support, but listening to the doctor say, "So do you think you might be depressed?" And I thought, what has the person said that would lead you to believe that? And asks, I'm going to do an anxiety and depression test, and you might do these, but I don't like them. Let me ask you these questions to see where you rate, so that then when we put you on this antidepressant in a month, we can see where. And I'm just like, it's the same reason I left my first psychiatrist. Because he just goes, you'll probably be on this your whole life. You definitely have clinical depression. Moving on. Here's your script, moving on. Here's your script, moving on. And I'm like, no, I won't operate like that.
Yeah, good for you.
So I'm with a holistic doctor who we do every 3 months we do blood work. I eat on a certain, for a while she's like, maybe it's leaky gut that's causing this. I healed my gut by 18 months, dairy-free, grain-free. Then I could add grain but not gluten. And then we did 2 years of extensive diet change. Yeah. I exercise all these certain amounts. We've done everything in the natural.
I want to stop for just a second because I think the key part of what you're saying is right where you're at, which is that first thing, no.
Yeah, yes.
No to this.
Yes.
And that's what I think is lacking in this man in John 5.
Okay.
He has just come to a place where it's just, or I won't say just come, he is in the place where it is, this is it.
Yeah.
It is so all-consuming, so total, so complete, that there is no fighting anymore.
Right.
There are just excuses for this is why things are the way that they are. And I think that mentality is the key. It's interesting to be able to at once recognize there's this boulder on my chest I can't get off, but I refuse to just lay here and let it crush me.
Yeah.
And I think that's starting point one. If you're in this place, I think that's it. It's not enough to just say, I hate this thing.
Right.
You might.
Right.
You might hate that you do this. That's not enough.
Yeah.
I think there has to be this willingness to say, I am fighting this thing on whatever. That's what I was saying this weekend. You know how you know when you're ready to be healed is when you're ready to do anything to get it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think I do want to get back to medication in a second because I'm very opinionated about it. But when you were talking, what I was reminded, one of my lower depressed states in the last decade, I remember feeling like it took all of my energy to get out of bed and get my kids off to school so that I could get back in bed. And just thinking I'd love to listen to worship music or read a scripture, but I can't do it. I can't. And just being so thankful for partnership with other people. I remember Brian looking at me and saying, you know that you have to be in community with people. You can't stay in bed. So what I've done, I was so mad. What I have done is scheduled a dinner with Whit and Heather for Friday night where you're going to tell them what's going on.
This was at in Owasso, wasn't it?
Yeah, Smoke in Owasso. And I was like, oh no, I'm not. And he's like, oh no, we are.
Yeah.
So this is what
really
this is what we're going to. And I just thinking having people, and for me, my spouse just going I see you, and I see that you can't do this for yourself anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm now stepping in with you.
Yep.
Here we go.
Yeah. That reminds me of the paralytic in Mark 2 who is lowered through the roof. Come hell or high water, we're getting you in front of Jesus.
Yeah.
You can't do it yourself, but we'll get you there.
Oh yeah, I'll carry you.
Yeah. And I think that's important.
Yeah.
But see, in what you're saying, I don't hear a resignation.
No.
There are points where you are powerless.
Sure.
There are points where it's it is beyond my capacity. Like I said, a rock on your chest. I can't move this. And you may need another person at that point to come. That's why I think that the church is so important. That there are people in your life that can come alongside and help you with this.
Yeah.
There will be moments where you will need the strength of another person. That's not the same as laying down.
Right.
Yeah.
And saying, I'm just stuck here in this.
Yeah.
Lindsay, you've talked about this before in your own story in battle with anxiety and so forth. Your husband Adam, was huge, I know, in kind of helping you, because you needed, and we all need at certain points, someone strong in our lives to look at us and say, yeah, not that, this, you know.
Yeah, I think for me, I didn't know. So two things. I loved what Jamie was saying at the beginning. I didn't know that my thoughts were not normal.
Right.
And so, you kind of in everyday settings start to reveal some of your thoughts to people, just, in conversation. And, my husband being like, really? No.
Yeah.
And he also, my husband is extremely practical, super kind, but very stubborn and this is what we're going to do. And so I was shocked when I told him, I don't think I'll ever be healed. And he said, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do we serve the same God?
Right.
Wow.
He was very much like, not with me. No.
Yeah.
We're getting this handled, So for him, I really, really borrowed a lot of his strength.
Yeah, I think that's really a great thing.
And what that makes me think about is, I grew up in the 90s. Not a lot of people knew about, depression, anxiety, all of this stuff, that there was really something clinically going on with me. So I don't cast any blame on anyone. But I hadn't experienced a wonderful counselor.
Sure.
So in a lot of ways, I think people will say, you experience God as a father through your father. And I had that. I have a wonderful father. But I hadn't experienced wonderful counselor. So I didn't. So when someone would say, take those thoughts to God or work those out with God, I didn't know how to do that because I'd never done that with someone before.
Wow.
So really that practice of another person who had done that before, my husband, also counselors, just practicing that with someone else and him really, I don't know, embodying that characteristic of God for me of like, hey,
It's like a muscle that you had to, and a practice you had to develop.
Yeah.
The first time you try anything, it's like, this is awkward, this is weird, am I doing this correctly? And you need somebody to be like, yeah, that's it, keep going, whatever. And you develop that, but it's a skill that you can learn and then begin to put into practice.
Yes. And I really felt early on, I remember telling my husband, I do not want to see a Christian counselor. I know now in reflecting on that, I didn't think that they would take it seriously.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of some of my experiences. And so just that wonderful counselor is important because he takes it seriously. He actually, what I found, took it more seriously than I did.
Oh, sure.
And wanted...
That's good, Lindsay.
Yeah. He actually wanted things to change and took it very seriously.
Yeah.
God in that,
I think what you said is interesting. It's another, for me, kind of case, I won't say a case against empathy, but pure understanding isn't going to do it. Looking at your wife and saying, oh my goodness, I feel so badly for you. I'll never understand what it's like to be in your situation. I don't know what it feels like. Like, none of that is really that helpful. What is helpful is saying, yeah, no. And we do have to, like what Brian did for you, borrow strength from other people in our lives. Like there is, I think, an empathetic enabling that happens where it's just like, oh, I'm so sorry, and a commiserating. And I think I think that happens especially all too easily in the midst of suffering, is we just want to get together and commiserate with other people that will, like I said, I find this to be the case with a lot of people who want counseling, is they don't really want help. They just want you to go, oh, shucks, that's terrible. I feel so bad for you.
Yeah. And there are a lot of counselors who
are willing to do that.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that
paid to do it.
That is the approach.
Yeah.
There's that I would just validate it. And I think what you were saying, kind of at the beginning of this conversation too, is that it is sort of the I don't know if it's the spirit of the age. It's a
Yes.
thing that we do at this time where there's no wrong answer. It's whatever you are. It's your truth. It's however you feel. And so to say to someone, well, that's not, okay. And even in the area of diagnosis, I mean, at this point, even more and more we're getting into, it comes especially with like neurodiverse communities like autism, which I understand, and so I understand like not wanting to see that person as uniquely different and an identity, but I really am curious of where this is going to go with what we accept as identity, and just like well, that's just how they are, that's just what they are, and to say okay, we're not going to we would not use person first language anymore. Like that's a person with this. We would say that's not a person with depression. That's a depressed person. It's almost like we're
so what happens and where that actually
there.
leads to is this vision of a Jesus who doesn't heal anybody but just loves people where they're at.
Like he made them that way.
Exactly, and that's what we want to be able to say about it. It's like because we've so internalized all of our conditions to the level of identity that there's really no escaping it. So you end up with a Lord that cannot heal, but just merely affirms.
Yeah, but that doesn't align with John 10. It doesn't align with life abundantly.
Yeah. As possibly the only person that's on medication here, maybe you, Lindsay, I feel like it's worth saying, as a Christian, I do not believe in numbing. I do believe that you might need a little bit of help or a lot of help to get to where you can experience every range of emotion and you can fight and you can battle. One thing my psychiatrist says, and I'm like, I can get behind that because she doesn't readily prescribe medication. But she says, she asked me one time when I was like, I don't want to be on medication, blah, blah. She said, let me ask you this. She said, have you ever been to the beach? Of course, yes. We've probably all been to the beach. And she said,
sunscreen?
have you ever been like enjoying the beach and then the sun gets up to about mid-sky and the sand is hot? And you don't want to leave the beach, but your feet are burning. And you put on some kind of shoes, some slides or some flip-flops so that your feet don't burn so that you can stay at the beach.
Same idea as what I'm thinking. Sunscreen does the same thing.
Do you need to put on some shoes for a season so that you can stay in the game? I think far too many people don't want to feel the emotions, so they want to numb with drugs, with alcohol, with medication, and just check out of the game. Like, I'm so numb, now I can do anything, I feel nothing. And as a Christian, I am not a proponent of that. I want to wrestle with the Lord and feel my whole wide range of emotion. And for me and my biology or physiology or whatever you say, I currently use a low-level antidepressant so that I can wrestle with the Lord with clarity. I can move towards healing. And I just didn't want to mislead anyone that I'm like, oh yeah,
totally
guys,
agree.
let's go ahead and get on medication. I hate that it's so easy to go to a doctor
it wouldn't
and
be
get
a
med.
first resort.
No. And I do think that there are people like I have been in the past that are so low that without some kind of medication, you're not even going to get out of bed. Okay, well, let's get you some help so that you can start fighting. Not so that you don't have to fight.
And who knows
so
where that leads.
Yeah.
But I think the long-range view and aim and goal has to be away from this, not peace with this. And it may be that you take your last breath with some of that medication in your system. That's neither here nor there.
Correct.
My aim, my orientation is toward a healed and whole life.
Right. One thing you talked about this weekend, Whit, was go on and sin no more. What the Lord said to the, and I told Lindsay this. I thought what struck me as sin or my propensity to sin would be less overt sin and but more sin in my mind of of submitting to a doctor versus Jesus.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I have to take everything a psychiatrist and a doctor and a naturopathic, but I have to take everything they say and put it under submission to Jesus. And does this flow with Scripture? Do I had a person that struggled with OCD tell me one time that their plan for when they were in a rut or whatever, it was very like closed off, like go into my closet so that I don't do this. And I go, I don't see that scripturally. I would rather you be on a medication to stable those emotions so that you can get out into community and talking with people and working with people. So I feel like when the Lord said to him, go and sin no more. And as I sit in the service and hear you say that, I think, okay, where I'm tempted to continue to sin, you're not going to see, but it's going to be, I'm tempted to sin, to lean into my psychiatrist more than the Lordship of Jesus. I won't do it.
I think what is being talked about there is an orientation or a direction, a trajectory, if you will. So if you think about it, where your life is heading, it's what I was talking about just a minute ago. Like, it is entirely possible to be on some kind of medication and yet oriented away from depression and toward the Lord.
Yes.
So sin being a trajectory, a way of life. And what he's saying is, I've healed you, but there's still a stop with this trajectory that you're on. And you can see he's been moving in that direction the whole time. He takes no responsibility for anything. He deflects as soon as they challenge him. That's why I say this man is pathetic, because he has as soon as he's challenged, he just immediately, and you can tell he's used to doing this, just deflects instantly. As soon as the Lord asks him a personal question, do you want to be healed? It's immediate deflection. Well, I have no one. It is get the spotlight off of me. I don't want to talk about, let's not look at me. I'll deflect it off. And so as soon as they say, you're carrying your mat on the Sabbath, it was that man. It was the man that healed me. And then as soon as the Lord comes to him and says, see that you are well, sin no more, that nothing worse may happen to you, he immediately runs to the Jews and tells them it was Jesus. It's pathetic all around, but I see a guy who's aiming in a certain direction. And what he's saying is, the end of that road that you're heading toward is worse than where you've been. You think it can't get worse than where you were. Oh, it can. Because there's an expectation, there's a judgment that is to come. And when I think about that, I think in terms of our orientation, what may presently be true is, I won't say irrelevant, but I would just say it's merely a detail in the kind of broader direction that I'm heading. Am I moving toward the Lord? Am I actively moving toward freedom and community? And I think that's the idea, is like, where do my current strategies lead? What is it, like you were talking about getting in your isolation, not good. So like, where is that leading? And do I need to change the orientation or the direction or the future that I'm aiming at that may be off? And realign that toward pursuing the Lord in the midst of brokenness. In the midst of, I'm still battling this. That's okay. The Lord isn't, and I think what too many people hear when we talk like this, or when I do sermons like this, and unfortunately it's when you're talking to the middle, you exclude the edges. It is what it is. It's part of what preaching a sermon is. It's not a counseling session. But I think what often people maybe feel or think is like that I can't do that. I don't know how to do that. And I'm trying to think of what I was going to say, and I just totally lost my place.
Well, I'm thinking that it's a one step at a time sort of journey, you know.
Yeah.
And as you were talking, it made me reflect on my own journey, and just that I'm pointed in a direction. Okay, if my direction is toward the Lord, if my direction, because for me I was trying to live, or I came to a place where I was like, okay, I love the Lord, don't love His church, don't love His people. And I'm like, I'm going to decide to, love the Lord, but I'm not going to be really involved. I'm not going to open myself up to that. And there's that exposure, that vulnerability again, that change can bring, that you were talking about this weekend, that like I had to get to a place where I was like, okay, I I know that you love your church. I know that I'm supposed to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
And I need this to be aligned with your word. I need my life to be aligned with your word. And I don't know how that's going to work. And this is scary for me. This is scary for me to step out here. This is scary for me, every decision. And it's not like that never comes up. It's not like it never comes up. It does. It comes up maybe a couple of times a year where I come up to a situation because I'm in close community with people in this church. We've been here for almost 10 years now, but where I'm in close community and I'm like, this is a point, I feel the tension. This is a point where there's something in me that makes me want to run and makes me want to say, oh, I knew I shouldn't have. I knew I shouldn't have trusted these people. I shouldn't have done this. And like, but that's where I have to recognize that no, that is an old pattern. That is my best answer. That is not the Lord's best answer for my life.
That's good.
And I have to choose His way over my way, and
That's
my way
so good.
is not working.
Yeah.
That's the orientation.
Yeah.
It's the direction which you're walking. And the reality is that and this is what I was wanting to get at earlier that I forgot.
Yeah.
You talked about the exact thing is there is and there will always be this side of eternity brokenness that is in tension with that direction that we're heading, or you could call it the ideal versus the real. What I cannot do is let go of the ideal because the real is just broken or uncomfortable or whatever. And so I have to be kind of moving toward this. And we recognize this, I think, a lot more with like physical ailments. We recognize that there are people that just live with physical ailments, maladies, whatever, that this side of eternity are not healed. And yet we can kind of understand, like, they can still be pointed at, aimed at the Lord, and that He meets them in the midst of their brokenness. And they like, yes, the same can be true for, I think, internal conditions, for mental battles, emotional struggles, whatever it is, issues of the soul. That there may be certain things that we experience because of what happened to us when we were younger, or maybe even just our biology and how, like, the sort of chemical balances or imbalances that may be going on in our head. So be it. We're in different places with this. But none of that is a reason or an excuse to change, to get off the trajectory, the path that we've been on, or that we should be on, and aim at something else.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's happening here. Is like, I think if you can have that orientation, it may be tough in a moment. It may be tough for this season, but I think it's that mentality that I'm moving in this direction. And I think you'd be surprised. I think for a lot of people, you would be surprised at what God could do, what the Lord could do. I think I love this. Get up, the command He tells him. Get up, take your mat, and walk. It's so interesting to me. The command to walk. Walk. Start moving.
Yeah.
You've been stuck here for so long. 38 years you've been in this thing. You've been laying by this pool forever. You're going nowhere. A relationship with God through the Scripture is always characterized as a walk.
Absolutely.
It's moving.
Yeah.
And what you find is that as you take steps with the Lord, it may look like showing up at a counselor for the first time.
Sure.
It may look like changing your diet. It may look like exercise. It may look like, I'm going to try this medication. It may look like a lot of different things. And they probably feel both at once really big and really small at the same time, like insurmountably. I don't know what, this is different for me. It's very uncomfortable, but also not everything's changing all at once. And so it doesn't feel like much is happening. But what I find is, for folks that are willing to just take steps, it is amazing. You do get to a place. I've lived this where you look back at I'm in this place right now where it's like, I've been pastoring for 8.5 years, and I'm turning 50 this year, and I'm reflecting back on kind of the journey that I've been on over the last nearly 10 years, or even 10 years, you could say, and just thinking about it, and just realize it, like seeing how far the Lord has brought me and what He has done in me over there. And if you're willing to take those steps, you will look back and go, oh my goodness, I can't believe how far I've come, how far He's brought me. But it does happen one small obedience at a time, which is what I was saying this weekend. It's specific obedience. Do what He tells you to do. And then just trust. And when you do that, there'll be another step that comes and another step. And you just keep taking steps. And pretty soon you wake up and you may not be fully cured this side of heaven the way that maybe you would want to be.
Right.
That's a tension that we hold.
Yeah.
But there's a trust that moving toward the Lord, and that I can, as Philippians 4:13 says, I can do all things.
Yeah.
I can do all things through Christ
Absolutely.
who strengthens me. He can meet you right where you're at.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I really loved your part, the part of your message on specific obedience. That has been my journey. And and anytime people come and talk to me about like anxiety or depression or like anything like that, I'm always like, God's going to ask you to do something and it's going to seem really silly or small, but you should probably do that thing. And that was really when things started to change for me, is when I acknowledged these small, specific things God was asking me to do that I thought were kind of silly. I had seen a doctor, I had gone to a counselor, and done a lot of that. But like I said earlier, very separate from the Lord. If that makes any sense at all. Like I am following Jesus, but not with that area of my life. So around, I don't even know when it was, maybe like 2021, something like that, is when I was like, okay, God, I'll see
See if you can do anything with this.
what you have to offer here. And so I was just kind of really came to a breaking point to like, my husband and I have never really, we didn't have like a rough marriage or anything. It was just like, hey, he's kind of like, hey, I cook dinner every night and you come home from work and you get right in bed and then I bring the food to you in bed and this is not working here.
Yeah,
I do everything around here. And so I was like, okay, God, what do I do? And I felt like he was like, go see I need you to see a psychiatrist. And that was my first small obedience. And then from there, what I learned, and I think it's in First Thessalonians where Paul writes about that church. He says, you received with joy the word of the Lord.
Yep.
And your transformation, I don't even have to tell people, they already know, basically is where it goes. From there, what I learned to do was, no matter how big or how small, like what God was asking me to do, I'm going to receive with joy the word of the Lord.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Good.
And so, see a counselor from there. I mean, I went to a psychiatrist. I'll explore the medicine. I'll take in these words that I'm like, I don't know how that works, like understanding scripture and all, like, how does that connect to that? But I'm going to receive with joy the word of the Lord in small obedience. I'm curious, small obedience or obedience in your stories, what are some examples of that?
Well, I think in my own case, I remember, I talked a little bit about this maybe in one service. I touched on this many times before, but in my own kind of my teenage years and early 20s battle with pornography, one of the things that I knew, so that was a habitual behavior that had gone on for at the point that really started to deal with it probably a decade. So that's a long time, of just a habitual kind of behavior. And I knew inwardly for the longest time, I knew that the only way out was to bring it into the light. And that was the last thing I wanted to do.
Right.
So what I was wrestling with the Lord back then was, okay, I hate this. I'm sorry. Forgive me. Here I am again. And I want to be free, but I knew also deep down that I didn't really want to be free because I couldn't figure out what life would be like apart from that. And so I knew that the only way out, and it's funny because back then nobody talked about any of this. Like there was no Catharos group like we have now for people, struggling with this kind of thing. There was I thought I was weird. I thought I was some awful pervert. I thought all kinds of things that kind of developed in my teenage mind. I had no clue. And so the idea of telling someone this horrible secret that I thought I alone, come to find out, it was plaguing my entire generation.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
My friends and I, like the people that I was closest with, my male friends, we did not talk about this. And maybe that's just church stuff but no one talked about it. But instinctively, or maybe spiritually, I knew that the doorway was telling someone. And it was going to take more than once of doing that.
Sure.
It wasn't just going to be one time that I was going to have to but continually be open about this and bring this out into the light. And so that was an area of specific obedience for me that I knew. It's an inward thing. I knew it. And what's interesting, I shared it this weekend, it's also often the commands that the Lord gives are often the last thing you want to do and feel impossible. It's very much like what he tells this man. Get up, take up your mat, and walk. Well, hold up a second. If I could do that, I would have done that a long time ago. I can't do that.
Right.
Yeah.
But he does, that's the command. And I think sometimes that's how the Lord's voice sounds. He's going to ask you to do something that, when you think about it, get up, take up your bed, and walk. It's not complicated, and it's not hard even. But to him, it is impossible. And I think for each of us, that is there's often a barrier of it's a simple command that feels insurmountable.
Yeah.
And yet that's how I felt. Tell somebody, are you kidding?
Yeah.
That's impossible. I know that's the way out, but that door's closed off to me. I can't do it. There's no way. I think that's the same thing is true for the person I was describing earlier, who I said, you should sit down with a counselor. He's like, I can't.
Yeah.
It's too painful. The way out is through, and I was talking a little bit about this weekend, through acute temporary pain.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to walk through short-term pain in order to rid yourself of ongoing chronic pain. Boy, that's a fascinating thing to consider. But those steps that the Lord gives you, that doorway will often feel like that. I said this weekend, it's a cross. It's a cross. Are you willing to take it, to accept it? Jump up. It's a death to self. Death to your fears, death to your own will, death to your perspective, death to your reputation. It may feel like you're going to be horribly humiliated or embarrassed. If I do this, whatever. And it's like, that's the way out. I'm going to have, that's what you're going to have to do. That's how it's played out in my life.
I think it's so interesting as you're talking about that, even the idea that that the secret thing is the thing that now needs to be known. You know how often it's the thing that it's the step that you need to take. Especially, I think the first step that you need to take is so tied to what has been happening. So I've been keeping a secret that needs to be known. I remember for me it was I think the first step of obedience was, we had gotten to the point where literally my husband and I, our two kids, were having church at our house by ourselves.
You were your own
us.
pastor of your 4-person family.
Jamie did like a little message. I played and we sang a song. That's what we did. And we didn't stay in that season for a long time, but we had just come out of a really difficult series of things that had happened in church life, and it was just like, I cannot bring myself, I cannot bear to do this, but we both heard very clearly, go to church.
And you knew you were supposed to.
Go to church.
Wow.
We came to church on the move, and I remember we did not come to the auditorium. We went to 180. We sat up in the dark, away from other people, and but I remember it may have been maybe the first or second time that we went. It was there was some story, and I could just, and I cried through like almost the whole service. Like, just it was so touching to me, because I don't know, I think the Lord was dealing with me like, there's maybe a safe place here. There may be a safe place here. And that was just kind of like the little moments he was speaking.
The spark of hope, is that?
Yeah.
Which is dangerous and courageous too.
It was,
to even admit that.
Yes, and that was like, I don't know. But that was the first step, was just going.
Yeah.
And then when I go, he speaks to me. And then whenever we stay, he tells me the next step.
Yeah.
And go to a small group. Oh, that sounds terrible. I definitely don't want to do that. Yes. Do that. There's healing moments that happen in that. Do the real Jesus. Oh no, I don't want to get real with anybody. I don't want to tell anybody anything. And it is that one step after another. But it was also for me tied to I had become very isolated. I had become I had disconnected myself from relationships.
Sure.
And just like what you said, that the Lord, whenever in the story where the angel heals the man and the lizard, and it's like, thou that becomes a testimony.
Yeah.
Now from that point on, not only did that happen in my life in the church, it was happening in my life in my career. And the Lord has brought these things together now at this point in my life, where relationship is so important, and relationship in the church is so important.
Yeah.
And I feel compelled to share with the church about what this other aspect, this from a counseling perspective or psychological perspective, but then also, what does God say about this? And I've experienced this in my life, and it's directly tied to the thing that was keeping me stuck.
Often is the case.
Yeah. And so it's just that step that leads to, like, let me not just give you a church to belong to, but let me give you a new life. And I do. When I think about my life, it's the same. Good. I look back and I think, this feels like a different life.
Wow.
It feels like a transformation that I never could have seen. I never could have seen. I think sometimes we want to see, we want to know where it's going before we'll ever take the first step, and that's that you have to start walking.
I think Tim Keller used to say something like this. Basically, he will give you more than you asked for.
Yeah.
But it'll also ask from you more than you want to give.
For sure.
More, yeah.
Oh, for
and
sure.
if you're willing to give what he asks for, he will give you far more than what you asked for.
Yeah.
But it's that trade. You have to be willing to trust. And the tough thing about it is that the trust comes first. The cross comes first. The resurrection is there, but the cross has to come first. You have to be willing to trust. Did anything come to mind for you?
Yeah,
Jamie?
and I just thought you guys are very spiritual people. But I think if you are on a path walking towards Jesus, then really there's nothing in life that isn't spiritual.
No, absolutely.
So for me, like I'll get to that in a second. But for me, it was just like, when you exercise, endorphins are released. It might take care of itself. Get yourself to the gym.
Yeah.
And so mine was literally exercise.
That's super practical, though.
But I feel like people, like Brian and I have done 2 different semesters leading Out of the Cave, which is a mid-sized group on depression. I find so many people don't want to exercise or eat right. They want you to give them a scripture they can quote and then go on their way. And I'm just like, it's all spiritual. It's all submitted to God. Like they come to the church wanting, I want you to tell me what
they view the verses like magic words.
And for me, the Lord has taken me on a very long, at least a decade journey of little baby steps. And a lot of them are in addition to studying scripture, but he hasn't been telling me so much, like pointing me back to a scripture as like, now get to the gym.
Yeah.
Now change your eating. Now if you look at it in light of scripture, yes, that makes sense. That makes sense that the Lord would want me to eat healthy food. That makes sense. But a lot of my steps have been very where I think a Christian would say, well, I didn't come to the church to hear that. And I'm like, man, it's been so life-changing and transformative and freeing.
Well, for you, what he's given you is a way of life.
Correct.
And that's what I've watched you adjust and change down through the years. It's like, okay, well, like, exercise is being not just it's a good idea to do, but for you is I have to do this.
Yeah.
This is part of the routine that I have that keeps me in a much better place than where I am if I don't do this. I remember same was with food.
Right.
We were eating out a lot at the time that you were starting that whole food thing, and it meant that you couldn't eat a ton of the foods that we were having, and I was like, good, poor Jamie, this is awful. But you were willing to do it, committed to it, because you had this is what I'm supposed to be doing right now. And you kind of combine all those things together, and it becomes I think part of what he wanted to give you was a new way of life, a new pattern, a new rhythm that kind of got you out of sort of because the ruts that we get on, and that's the way to think of them, is like they are ruts, and for a lot of people they are insurmountable. You cannot, the grooves in your mind, like they just go that direction, and you really are going to need something. That's what I was talking about at the beginning. Long-term problems require breakthrough solutions. You're not going to like gradual your way out of this. You're not going to little bit your way out of this. I mean, it is going to happen a little bit at a time, but I just mean it's not like trying what you've been doing, but just more.
Right.
Just give it a little bit more.
Right.
That's not going to do it.
Yeah.
It's going to require, in your case, it's going to require a lifestyle change.
Right.
And are you willing to do that? I want to give you something, but it's gonna take some things from you, and those steps showed up in lots of different ways for you.
Sure.
I talk about that concept with my clients in a way. I call it off-roading.
That's really
this is
good.
off-roading. You're off-roading right now, and that's going to be uncomfortable. So if you think about the patterns that are well worn, those ruts in your life, think about those like a 4-lane highway. That you can just go fast. You can go far.
You could put it on autopilot.
You could. You could. Yeah. It's like that shot between Tulsa and Oklahoma City. It's like I can be there, and I'm like, where'd that drive go? Because I've done it so many times, and I can go fast, and I'm just going.
That's interesting.
Right? And but whenever we're trying to make new patterns, we're trying to do something different. Like when you're trying to say, I feel like I need to stay in the bed, or I need to seclude or whatever.
Yes.
Okay, when you go to the gym, you're off-roading.
Yeah.
And what you have to do, that's like that's not even going down Route 66 to go to Oklahoma City. That's going, through the field.
Or for you, returning to a church.
Right, absolutely. Is
So
off-roading.
what you could say is, if it doesn't feel threatening or scary, you're probably not doing it right.
In line with the same
You're
thing
just
you've been
heading
doing.
in the same direction.
Right.
We're going to
And
talk about
taking the
this
same
next weekend. The next passage we'll look at, I think we'll talk about it tomorrow, is John 6. So we're not teaching through John, but it just works out this way. In John 6, Jesus introduces this new teaching that is really just messes with people. It's, unless you eat my flesh and drink my blood, you have no life in you. And they're like, okay, there's a huge group of people that have been following him. And they're like, I'm out on that one.
Sure.
That's it. And it literally says a lot of people leave.
Yeah.
A lot of people leave. And then the Lord, and here's what I love about this. And this, again, back to the whole inclusion and empathy, and the Lord would just like, he's fine with it.
Yeah.
They leave and he doesn't go, hold up. I said some things that offended you or bothered you. Oh my goodness. I need to get back up and issue an apology because some people didn't quite grasp what I meant. He was fine with them not getting it. He's not trying to run them off, but he's willing to say hard things that people don't understand. And it's like, and so he looks at the disciples and he goes, well, are you going to leave too? What a choice they have to make in that moment. And Peter, I want to say, they were saying amongst themselves, I need to read the passage again, but it's something like, this is a hard saying. Who can understand this? And the Lord's like, are you leaving too? And Peter kind of steps up and speaks on behalf of the disciples. And I love what he says. To whom shall we go? Where else am I going to go?
Yeah.
And I think that's a really great place to be.
Yeah.
I don't see it all yet. Peter didn't see it all yet. We know Peter's ultimately going to deny the Lord. But he's in the middle of all of that, like his imperfect understanding of who Jesus is, he's at least aware enough to know there's no real other option.
Yeah.
So I'm in this with you, come kind of hell or high water. And I think that's like, I think what I want to say to people is you should expect that.
Yeah.
You should expect that if you're going to take this
Yeah.
obedience journey with the Lord, that there's going to come something He's going to say or ask that you're going to be, that where it's going to feel like, it'd be easier to tap out right here.
Yeah.
That feels super unfamiliar. I love your off-roading analogy.
Yeah.
Like if it doesn't feel completely weird, and I find what most of us want is we just want a slightly tweaked version of our regular, like what we already are doing. We don't and what we want is that to produce big change, and it just doesn't work that way. So you can imagine that the initial movement in this direction is going to feel like I'm heading into completely uncharted territory. I think it would be terrifying. I don't know how to do it. All of things. And I think what I would say is be willing to go with the Lord kicking and screaming.
Yes.
I would say it's okay. It's okay to go, I hate this, as long as you're still moving with Him. I even think we think that doubt is somehow that, if you have a bad attitude while obeying, that the Lord doesn't respect that. I actually think doubt's something completely different. I think doubt is feigning like you want help, but not.
Yes.
And living in this, well, I'd love it, but I'd love to, what people want I'd love your counsel, they don't want to hear any of it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's doubt. That's what James calls a double-minded man.
Yeah.
You're trying to face two directions at the same time. I want your counsel, but not. That's doubt. But obedience, even kicking and screaming, fine, I'll do it. Whatever. I think about this man in the C.S. Lewis parable with the lizard, who in a kind of panic says, fine, kill it. He's not happy about it. But he eventually gives his consent, and the miracle still happens.
Yeah.
And that's what I think, that's kind of our approach to who else shall we go to? I don't really know. I don't love what you're saying. I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense. But fine. Naaman's another example of a guy who goes kind of kicking and screaming into the Jordan River to be dipped 7 times. He doesn't agree with it. He doesn't like it. He doesn't like what he's been given to do. But he goes begrudgingly and finds healing anyway.
This reminds me of a personal story. I think we're married to the Lord, or our relationship should be, so it shouldn't be so easy to step away. When Brian and I got in a really, really heated argument, I don't know, maybe 20 years ago.
I think I've heard this story.
And
yes.
We got in a really heated argument, and I was just done. I was just done. And I was like, I got to get out of here. And he said, okay, so at this time we had small kids, 2 small children, and I was a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
And so he said, okay, if you're going to go, set the keys down. I bought the car.
This is so good.
Yeah.
I bought the car, and I'm fine with you going, but set the keys down. Go ahead. And I was so ticked off. And I went and sat in our office just stewing and thinking to myself, he did buy the car. And he does pay all the bills. Where will I go? And what will I do?
I love this.
And he just knew my personality enough, but he would let me go, but it wasn't going to be easy. And I think if we view our relationship with the Lord, He'll let you step out, but it's not going to be easy. Instead, cling on, kicking and screaming if you must, hold on tight, and wrestle it out with Him.
That's a really good, so maybe we could kind of conclude this section at least with this, a word or a thought toward, and I'm working this out as I'm sitting here, but to people who you love someone who's, and it could be, clinically depressed or anxious or whatever, or it could just be at a different place with their emotional maturity journey. I think love, again, in our current day, love looks like affirmation. Affirm me where I am at. Empathy. I want you to just sit with me where I am. And there is a time, no doubt about it, to hear and to listen and to sympathize with someone.
Definitely.
But I think I love these stories. I'm curious how they would land with a wide spectrum of people.
Yeah.
If they would think, how rude, how terrible, what kind of a husband would do that? That he should have he should have, I'll never let you go no matter what. And it's like, the Lord doesn't even do that. I heard a pastor one time say, you can do all this, you can sin all this, and the Lord's never going to let you go. And I'm like, actually, he will.
Yeah.
Literally, Romans 1 says he gave them over.
Yeah.
He gives you over to what ultimately you want. This is what I read this weekend. Hebrews 10 is like, there no longer remains a sacrifice. You go on deliberately sinning.
Yeah.
There's only a fearful expectation
Yeah.
of judgment. The Lord will hand you over to your own desires if you want them.
Yeah.
Funny story, my mother, when her and my dad were early on in their marriage, got in a big fight. My dad's probably told this story, I think, years ago. And she got mad and left. And she was headed back home.
Back home, yeah. Where it's safe,
my
where
dad,
people love me.
My dad called her parents and just said to her dad, Frank, hey, here's what's happened. Deleve and I have been in a fight. She's headed your way. And he said, don't worry about it. She got there, pulled up, and her mother and father were waiting for her. And when she pulled up, they were like, hi, you can't come in here.
Yeah.
You're not coming back home.
Yeah.
You don't, go where you want, but you're not coming here. Like, that is so good.
Yeah.
And we need more of that. I think we need, that's the kindness, the
That's
firm
exactly what I was
kindness.
thinking.
It is
Yeah.
kindness
It's
that
kind.
opposes you.
It is kind.
I've said this many times. For God to be for you, he has to be against you.
Yeah.
In other words, sometimes we have to oppose. We do this with our children, and I don't know why we've lost this. Like when our kids are young, hopefully we're wise enough as parents to know, I can't let my kids have whatever they want because they'll kill themselves.
Yeah.
Right.
They don't know what's best for
Yeah.
them. Do you think I always think of it like this. Do you think the gap between your intellect and your toddler child's intellect is greater than the gap between your intellect and God's?
Yeah.
His perspective and yours? Do you have any idea how vast that gap is, what he sees, what he knows? Shouldn't you expect that there would be times where God says no?
Yeah.
And he's going to say no for your own good. And we, like 2-year-olds, want to lay on the floor and throw a temper tantrum and be mad about it, but it is for our good. So I think there are, maybe, Val, you could talk a little bit about this. Let's talk about maybe the balance between understanding and listening and being a trustworthy kind of presence and a safe. I think that word gets a lot of negative, and rightly so, but I think there's some positive to it as well. That they need a safe place to be able to share, here's what I'm going through, but also I oppose you for your good. That's also needed.
Yeah, I think about the way that I think about this is being both real and relational. That those two things are not at odds with one another. That if we are really going to be for relationship and for maintaining relationship, then that has to be based on reality. It's got to be based on what's really happening here. I think far too often we have we are in relationships where we have to agree with each other, where we can't be differentiated in any sort of way. We in order to stay okay with you, I have to acquiesce to whatever it is that you want, whatever it is that you think I have to think too.
That's so wrong.
And so, it is so wrong. It's not the way God designed us. We were all created uniquely for a reason. And we need to operate in that uniqueness, that there's a fuller experience of relationship when that can happen. And there's, I think, a fullness of life for the people who are in the relationships that's available when you're able to be real. And that's not to say, like, I'm not coming to you and saying this is an issue because I'm not trying to harm you here. I'm trying to...
Just because I disagree with you doesn't mean I hate you.
No. We can see things differently. This is the way that I see it. And this is why I think, we do need to be in authentic community, authentic relationships. This is the only place, I think, where you really can say to someone, I mean, this is your husband who's saying this to you. Like, no.
Who knows me well.
And here's the other thing, Jamie. It's like he's not trying to pay you back.
No.
That is not. No. So, and I know, because I know Brian really well. And I know what he's doing there is drawing a firm boundary. But he's not saying, oh, yeah?
Right.
You want to do that? Well, then this is what I'm going to do.
Right.
It's not that.
No.
It's okay, I'll let you have what you're asking
What you say
for.
you want.
But
Yep.
we're going to draw a clear
It's
boundary
boundary.
Yeah.
here,
Yeah.
and you're going to have to choose. It really is it's putting the agency
Yeah.
back in
Yes.
in
Yeah.
your, like, on you,
Yeah.
which is,
Right.
do you want to be healed, or is this what you really want?
Right.
This is what it will lead to.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can do that firmly. You can do that kindly too.
Yeah.
I don't think he raised his voice or anything.
Probably not. No, no.
Said it very calm and very.
Of course he did.
But there is
Yeah.
safety in that. There's safety
Yeah.
and security
Yes.
in that to say you can choose those things. Okay, that's what you're going to do. Okay, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Or this is what I see. And I know you see it this way. This is what I'm also seeing. And that's okay.
Yes.
And can we get to a place where that's okay? Where I can be different than you are, and that
Yes.
we can celebrate
Yes.
this and this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I walked through this with my kids. I remember telling my daughter Lucy, who wanted initially out of high school to go to college, but couldn't ever really put like definition
Yeah.
to why or what she wanted to do there. And eventually we kind of got to the place where it was like, I could tell the main thing driving her was friends.
Sure.
I just want to go hang out with my friends. I'm like, you can do that.
Yeah.
That's fine. I'm not going to finance that.
Right. Right.
And that was, and when you feel like the conflict between, well, yeah, and we're all the same way. It's like you're keeping me from what I want, but also I know you're right, and I hate this.
Yeah.
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 And it can cause some frustration, but to me, that is what like differentiation is being willing to, and honestly, being willing to hurt somebody else, not to intentionally hurt
Right.
them, but to draw a boundary or to tell the truth in such a way that you may not like what I'm about to say, but this
Yeah.
needs to be said, or if we're going to move forward, this is how it's going to have to, like what happened
Yeah.
with Brian, we'll put the
Yeah.
keys down.
Yeah.
That's hurtful, but not harmful.
Yeah.
Well, and I
Like-
just think, like, in that situation, he actually knew more than I did. I wouldn't have admitted it at the time, but like, he comes from a divorced family.
Yeah, he
he
knows what
knows
that
the
means.
brokenness
Yep.
of separation. I don't know that.
Yeah.
And so I'm just mad and want out.
Yeah.
I don't really know what that means.
Yeah.
I don't know what that does to my kids or what that does. I don't know any of those things.
Yeah.
So his boundary was very firm. Like,
It's really good.
no, he knew more. And I think that, like, even as people come to church and are challenged with the word,
Yeah.
you sometimes want to I just abort mission, get me out of here.
Yeah.
When I would say, the moment you feel that stirring, stay.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yes.
If it's kicking and screaming, stay.
Absolutely.
Now, if you're at
Yeah.
a church where they're teaching truth, but if you don't
Yeah.
like it, but it's in the Bible,
Yeah.
hold on
Yeah.
and just stay.
Well, I think what this is it is incumbent upon all of us, each of us, wherever we are, whether we're dealing with some clinical condition, or we all have our issues, to allow the Lord to meet us in those and to address them, because to the degree that each of us, we need each other.
Yes.
And I need to be emotionally and spiritually mature, not just for my own sake, but
Right.
for my wife's.
Right.
I can, some of the stuff that y'all were talking about, we don't have time to get into it here. I'd love to talk about it at some point, but all that attachment stuff, which I think is like learning differentiation, learning where your personality pitfalls are, what your
Yeah.
proclivities are, recognizing them, being open about them. All of this allows me or helps me not only be a better me, but then serve my kids,
Yeah.
the church,
Yeah.
Yeah.
my wife, all of these better. And so there's really an urgency, I would say, for each of us to allow the Lord to work on us and in us. That's why we don't want to process this series through the lens of, ooh, they really need this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Not at
Lord,
all.
what are you wanting to say to me?
Yeah.
That's that humility, that theme of humility, which runs all through the scriptures, that allows God to work in you, and through that, as a byproduct, you then become a better servant
Yeah.
of the people around you, which is what we desperately need. So it's, like I can't love my wife all that well in what she's struggling with if I haven't figured out, because then what happens is she does something out of her brokenness that I don't like, and then out of my brokenness, I just am responding, and then we're just paying each other back. This is why, by the way, like the best marriage counseling I would think is just work on yourself.
Yeah.
Because you can't really control what the other person does. But if you'll spend a lot of time, Lord, transform me instead of, won't you change? I hate the way you do this. But if you would if we would each just really examine ourselves. So often, much of what happens in marriage stuff is like they. And if I could just, and so what we think is mistakenly, and we know this, is like, well, if I could just trade out the they, it would be easier. And you see this, and then the divorce rate for second marriages is higher than first, and so on and so forth. It kind of, because we're not really addressing ourselves and allowing the Lord to address us. So there really is an urgency to this whole thing for us personally.
One thing I don't know, I don't usually pull back the curtain of our family's friendships very often, but one thing that I think is really cool that you do, because the way even you've spoken just now with such confidence and authority, based on scripture, I can sit under that in our church and feel safe.
Yeah.
But I also appreciate that you are a real person.
Yeah.
So we get, this email does come in where someone has their feelings hurt.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that what often people don't get to see is that then you go to godly counsel. You ask Brian and I, how did you guys feel about this? You ask another pastor over here, how did you feel? Am I approaching this accurately? And I get a glimpse to see you wrestle with the Lord that some people don't see.
Sure.
And so because you wrestle with the Lord and then you preach with confidence, we can be safe under your leadership. And I appreciate that. And I just thought I'd share that because the average person doesn't get to see that you don't take this lightly, that you don't just call this man pathetic without having wrestled out the scripture and deciding after lots of wrestling, oh no, he is in fact pathetic.
Or
I'm not
I'm willing, like the Lord, you can do what you want with them. I just, from my vantage point, that's how I see it. And I'm okay being wrong there. The thing I've come to a long time ago is I'm not anybody's savior. My opinion is not the one that matters most.
But you pastor us well, and you love well. And even when you say things like, even when I leave a message and say to my husband, that was harsh, I still feel safe because I know who you are even behind the scenes. So I would say to anyone listening that would say, oh, sure, he can say that with such confidence, but he doesn't know me. Man, you work hard to know us, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
So, yeah.